o'clock on a beautiful Tuesday morning. And if it's 10 o'clock on a Tuesday morning, that means it's time to track the tropics. From Wesh 2 in Orlando, Florida, I'm meteorologist Eric Burris.
And in Savannah, Georgia, WJCL 22 Chief Meteorologist Jeremy Nelson.
All right, so Jeremy, we obviously have quite a bit of stuff to track out in the tropical basin. The big story, of course, continues to be Hurricane Erin.
Yeah, and just a few days ago, that peaked as a Category 5 hurricane, so it really ramped up when it was kind of just north of the northern area of the Leeward, Windward Islands, missing that island chain, and almost remarkably, this has been a major hurricane now for several days, and it has stayed just north of the islands, and the track is still to sort of thread that needle between North Carolina and Bermuda.
Yeah, and as it does so, the good news is it's really looking less and less like a major hurricane would. Winds are at 110 miles an hour as of the 8 a.m. intermediate advisory. That's the latest update from the National Hurricane Center. Moving to the northwest at 7, it really has kind of been eroded in on that left side, on that western side.
Yeah, so that's why we did see the intensity drop early this morning. It is down to Category 2 hurricane. I think they're sort of wavering that intensity. Might try to get bumped up a little bit today, but yeah, that western side, and we see this sort of often with tropical systems. Sometimes that the western side is the one that if you can hold that together, like we saw several days ago, then you really ramp up the intensity. But that can sometimes be the first side to start getting eroded.
That's right. Now, the official forecast from the Hurricane Center, here's the cone for it. And we'll start wide, just kind of give you an idea. The center of circulation should stay off the shoreline. But if we zoom in, you can see the official forecast from the National Hurricane Center does bring the intensity up just a little bit from 110 as it is right now to 115 by tomorrow afternoon, as it kind of taps into some of that Gulf Stream activity, that very warm water, and then starts to make that right hand turn between Bermuda and the United States, center of circulation staying off the lower 48. But because it's a large enough storm, Jeremy, there is, of course, the concern of some impacts up and down the eastern seaboard.
Yes, and we're already seeing that here in our coastline for Georgia into the low country of South Carolina. We have a high rip current risk that goes through Thursday night, also a high surf advisory. Our breaking waves, which are the ones that would be closer to where surfers are at, or maybe if people venture into the water, which we don't want to happen, could be around 6 feet in my area. How about down by you?
Yeah, it's going to be the same idea, 5, 6, 7, even 8 feet. So there's the map just to kind of illustrate it. And yeah, we're looking at in my area, high surf advisory, but it's not just in this area. It goes all the way up through coastal Georgia, all the way up into South Carolina, North Carolina. As a matter of fact, even up into the Delmarva Peninsula here, we're watching that high surf advisory in effect there as well. And notice it goes all the way up through Long Island and into Cape Cod. Look at that. High surf advisories all the way up through to Nantucket and Barnstable. So, this is the kind of impacts that a storm system, a hurricane, even staying off the shoreline can have. It's going to impact a lot of people.
Yeah, and while it stays far away from my area, far away from yours, far away from New England, it will get, we'll say maybe close-ish to the far outer part of the eastern North Carolina, the Outer Banks area, maybe like 150 miles or just a little bit more. And that will brush them with maybe a little bit of wind, a little bit of rain out there. And they do have some tropical storm watches, which we were discussing. Maybe they'll have a brief window of a tropical storm warning. Remember, that would be winds 39 miles per hour or higher.
Right, right. And that is based off of this type of data. You can see this is the GFS wind gusts. And notice those deep greens, that's denoting winds of 35, 45 miles an hour, at least in gusts, right? And so because of that, the Outer Banks are highly susceptible to flooding, storm surge, and all of that. And that's why there's been a state of emergency that's put into place there, and why there have even been some evacuations from the Outer Banks. But it's important to note, again, in looking at the data, Hurricane Erin will not make a direct landfall on the lower 48 on the United States. It's just going to be those peripheral impacts. And as you had mentioned, Jeremy, for your area, it's going to be the rough surf, the rip currents. It's mine as well. My assignment today is to actually go up in our helicopter and cover the rough surf and the rip currents from the beaches, just kind of show the surfers, because the surfers are going to be out there doing their thing. But people, I can't speak to you. I mean, you've got a family of swimmers. I do not. So I am not a great swim. I'm fine. I'm a scuba diver. But you know what I mean? I'm not going to go out in this looking for trouble.
Right. And I think all the beaches in my area that have lifeguards, they are telling people that you cannot be in the water. Maybe, I don't know what the criteria is, maybe up to your ankle or the knees or something like that. But you can't go in the water, go swimming. We've already had three people in my viewing area at beaches this year die due to rip currents. So it's something that a lot of people, they may vacation and they're not thinking about that. That's not on
Right.
their mind, and then they get in the water, and those are things that can sneak up on you very quickly. So with rip currents, you need to kind of go parallel to the coast. So if you get caught in one, try to swim out of it, not against it.
Oh, 100%. And you bring up a good point. So let me find the fancy graphic that we made years ago just to talk about that because rip currents are unbelievably strong, right? So if you find yourself swimming, remember, rip current is that channel of water that rushes outward. It's usually tied to a break in the sandbar. And so if you find yourself in that channel of outward rushing water, you can't escape it if you dive directly toward the beach. So swim parallel to the shoreline, get yourself out of that outward rush, get yourself back over an area that sandbar is located, for example, and you're going to be fine. So, in other words, if you're swimming and you're getting carried out to sea, and you're here and you feel yourself getting pulled, just swim parallel and then you'll get released and you'll be able to come back in.
Right. And I mean, understandably, getting trapped in one of those, I haven't been, but I'm sure you're already panicking, and
Yep.
then you're probably have water all the way up to your neck or your head. You're just above the water, and you can't see where the rip current ends. So probably easier said than done, but
Yeah.
that's why we're saying, you know what, just don't go in the water and you won't have that problem.
And I think that that's the key, right? Because we know things are getting rougher at the area beaches. For example, let me show you.
You may have
Um,
some cameras out there.
yeah, that's exact. You know me. You know me, buddy. So this is one of our beaches, and it's not going to be like the most glorious shot, but this is Marineland, okay, which is in Flagler County. I was looking at this morning when I did my coffee talk broadcast. It was a very different view. It was a much quieter view, but the surf is absolutely building here, right? Let's look at Let's go to Daytona Beach, okay, the world's most famous beach. At least that's what we say. And you can see very clearly, especially in that bottom left corner, the winds are picking up and that surf is absolutely picking up. So look, this is not what it looks like, when a hurricane's coming. But when you've got a hurricane off the shoreline, these surf areas really do pick up in a pretty quick clip. And that's what we're starting to see on these cameras.
Yeah, and one of the things that's particularly dangerous about the rip currents is you and I probably have nice weather today, sunshine, so people want to be out at the beach, and then they're tempted to get into the water. So,
Right.
yep. So those are, but we will take a rip current risk over any type of closer in impact from a storm. So that's Aaron, and then obviously a lot of people are wondering about two other areas of interest out there in the Atlantic.
Yes, yes. So first off, let's just get right back out to the kind of wider view in the tropics. So there's Erin, very clearly just east of Florida, but elsewhere of Erin, right? There are these other areas that have opportunities to develop tropically, okay? The first one, area of Orange, has a 10% chance of forming over the next 2 days' time, a 60% chance of forming over the next 7 days' time. And then behind that little Erin logo there, let me move this if I can just a little bit. That is Invest 99. That has a 30% chance of forming over the next 2 days' time and over the next 7 days' time. And Jeremy, to me, that's going to be the one. Well, I mean, they both need to be watched, right? But it's just a question of where do they go, right? And we've got the models. I'll have the models for you in a second.
Yeah, so the 60% one, almost, you look at that kind of how it curves. wants to, or giving the look that it may want to try to follow the track of Erin. However, models have been kind of trimming down how the intensity or the forecast with this. So it has looked a little less impressive over the last couple days. So right now, I was getting a lot of questions about, is this going to be like Erin, another major hurricane? At the moment, I would say probably not, or at least the
Right.
chance is a lot lower.
Well, I think, we've got cold water upwelling in that area, right, Jeremy? And so because of that, the thing is, sure, it looks like it's probably going to want to develop, but it's not going to have that same opportunity to feed off of the warm water if that warm water is being taken up by air. And remember, these hurricanes, they're like big washing machines. They're churning and churning and churning. And so that churning, it's raining cats and dogs. That's cooling the ocean. It's churning up the waves. That's bringing up cooler water from the depths. And so there's a narrow window of cooler water that Aaron is leaving behind. It's just like a wake behind a boat or a ship. And so this next one moving in is not going to have that same energy to feed off of.
Right. So as it moves northwest, it may try to organize our favorite model, the European. You'll get to that in a little bit. That
Yep.
that sort of curved it off to the north, and a lot of models are keeping it away from the U.S. Obviously, we'll watch it.
Yep.
It's still really far out there. And then we do have an invest. So the invest is not the one that's a 60% chance, but it's the 30% area. So
Right.
maybe if you have those tracks, we can look at those and then we'll dive into some model data.
Yeah. So let's take a look at Invest 99 just to kind of see where it is. And I've got the satellite loop here dialed up. And like you said, it's the area coming off the coast of Africa, 35-mile-per-hour winds. It's just starting to get its sea legs, right? Here's the computer forecast models, and notice as it continues across the central Atlantic, this one looks to be a little bit further south. And, when you start tracking these systems more south, that gives them less of an opportunity to recurve. That's going to be that time frame for questions. Now, notice toward the end of the model data there, Jeremy, the lines kind of diverge a little bit as there's more questions than answers, out in this zone here. But
Right.
that's going to be this next one. This is going to be one that'll be interesting to track.
Yeah, and I think no one model is particularly aggressive here in the
Right.
next 5 to 7 days with this one. However, even if that energy just sort of meanders its way into the Caribbean, hangs around there, it may eventually get into an area where you have maybe lower shear. There's no dusty dry air around, and you're over warm water. And then eventually something forms. So we'll have to kind of watch. There's two or three lows, including that 60% chance one,
Yep.
that are moving across the Atlantic. That high to the north, the big Bermuda high, or the high over the Atlantic, is going to start expanding, maybe try to press some of these down to the south. And at least with this one, it appears it tracks a little bit more to the south.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's still there's a lot of time to track it though, right? But
Right.
this is these are all indicators, right, that we are now getting closer and closer to the peak of hurricane season. The actual peak of hurricane season, Jeremy, is less than a month away. And this is a dramatic, you look at the mountain here. We're climbing the mountain, right? There's a dramatic uptick of energy and activity basically from here all the way through October 1st. This is the go time right now. And
Yeah.
I think the Atlantic is really showing that.
Yeah, almost. I mean, Aaron, and then now these other two waves that we're monitoring out there, as we always say, and that graph shows it mid-August through kind of the first 7 to 10 days of October. If you just take that time window, that's really when the bulk of tropical activity occurs in the Atlantic basin. You'll get some storms before and after that,
Right.
but the chances are much higher when you're within that peak window. And here we are, kind of late, heading into late August now, so we still have all of September, and then you have that front half of October when it can be kind of busy. So this is the time of year. It happens every single year. We just got to watch these systems and just think about it. In the last week, we had a Category 5 hurricane.
Right. I mean, just a couple of days ago, we had a Category
Yeah.
5 hurricane. Yeah. I mean, it's and to that point, everything up to that was a tropical storm and no more. And then it was like Aaron finally found that spot, that energy between the particles of dust, and was able to fire on all cylinders. Right.
Yeah. So should we talk about if you have any those ensembles ready to go?
Oh, baby, baby, who you talking to? Literally, while you were talking, I was getting
You
things
had it
ready.
ready to go.
I listen. Yeah. So let's start with just the raw model data. Okay. Let's start there, and then we can move on. So there's Erin recurving. GFS. This is the current run of the GFS, keeping it well out to sea. If we go back a model run, it was maybe a little closer. So the latest run maybe pushed it 4 or 5 miles further out to sea. We are confident that the center of circulation will stay out to sea. After that, there's the next one, little area of low pressure. And at the same time that it approaches the Turks and Caicos, it looks like the GFS wants to develop a little homegrown low right off the coast of the Outer Banks there. Picks it up, gives a little weakness in the ridge, recurves it, and then after that, we see there in the Caribbean a sloppy, non developed low moving toward the Yucatan. Of course, it crosses the Yucatan, and then Kablawi tries to blow up around September 1st. And then the very last frame of the GFS, you've got a hurricane over the Gulf kind of approaching, it looks like Texas. So that's the GFS model. What say you, Jeremy?
So that is just the one run. That's
Yep,
not the
correct.
ensembles. We'll get to those coming up. So what you were showing there after Aaron, that other storm sort of follows in its wake if it develops or not. That's pretty far away from the U.S. once again. Anything homegrown when we're looking off from maybe the southeast or towards Carolinas, those tend to move away, not like move off and then
Right.
curve back in. Most times, not every time. So if we did get a little low sneaking off North Carolina, hopefully that would just depart. So we'll watch, I guess, from that model what follows Aaron, and then if something kind of sneaks down Caribbean to Gulf later time frame, that would be more like the start of September or into that first week.
Yep. So there's that. All right. So now we move on. Let's look at the European model data. All right. There's Erin behaving, doing its thing, recurving, staying out to sea. Da, 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 da. It's got that next area of low pressure recurving and not a problem at all, nowhere near us at all. And then notice there's something kind of popping up around the 29th, 30th, and again, moving away on the European. It's almost like it's an area of low pressure that's trying to form along an old front or something to that effect, Jeremy.
So maybe we'll see another yellow shaded area somewhere off the southeast or east coast. As you're highlighting, though, the GFS and the European, move that away. Let's look ahead now and kind of see maybe 240 hours out. Is there anything on the European trying to
No,
sneak into the Caribbean or the Gulf?
no, the euro is super quiet.
No.
Now, that said, let's switch over and let's look at some of those ensembles, though, right? Because the ensembles are where we start to get more of a, all right, what's really going on here? So, this is basically, this is looking under the hood of the GFS. This is the 30 something ensemble members of the GFS. So there's Aaron looping away. Then we've got some Hornets there trying to show something around the 26th. Just about every one of them off of our East Coast. There's a couple that may try to keep it around Florida or even into the Gulf. And then after that, a couple more, the very end of August into September, what I think is interesting here, Jeremy, on the GFS ensemble is that model support has really come down. If we look at the European ensembles, there goes Aaron. There's some activity kind of August 25th, 26th, 27th, all east of us. And then at the very end, nothing. So, you go back like a day or two, there was significant ensemble support for something. Seems like it's gone away completely. Now, does the model switch back and forth? We don't know yet.
Right. But I think we're getting close enough now that that 60% chance area that now that the GFS, the European, are taking that more to the north. It's not like it's a close pass to the southeast or the east coast. It was in what you were showing, it was east of Bermuda.
Yes, it was. It was way out there. And so I don't know. It's interesting to me because the models, the ensembling really had stuff the end of August. They've really backed off on it. What direction do the winds blow, so to speak, here?
Right. I think maybe if we really got down to it, we may see something not necessarily homegrown because it could be something that just is sort of meandering through the Atlantic Basin, the
Right,
Caribbean,
right.
gets near the Yucatan or the Gulf. But I still really think maybe very end of August, more around that start of September, something could get going there, far northern or western Caribbean into the Gulf. I still think that's an area that models may try to develop something.
I agree with you. I just feel like there's hints of it, right? And so then the question comes in like, are we in Madden-Julian oscillation phase to kind of support that sort of thing? So like let's just look at that, right? Like let's just look and see. MJO phase, if you're unfamiliar, MJO kind of gives you an idea of where we could see rotation, right? So looking at the very end of August, you know what? Look at how the very end of August we're almost out of phase in the open Atlantic there on the top right corner of your screen. The Pacific is more in phase. So maybe that's where the switch flipped is the MJO phased out of the Atlantic. And then notice around September 1st and 2nd, Jeremy, who goes in phase? The Gulf goes in phase. So is it a homegrown scenario? Do we get some sort of a homegrown area of low pressure developing in the Gulf around the 1st and 2nd as we go into MJO phase?
I think what you bring up is a good point because we have a couple things lining up, and of course, we discussed this with the weather pattern that sort of very late August into the first week of September or so is a time frame we highlighted for potential development in that area that kind of lined up with some things. So, uh, yeah, I would say maybe it doesn't the models don't have to be showing something for something to
Right.
occur, and vice versa. Just because the models show something, so many times we've seen it doesn't develop.
Models are guidance, not gospel, people. We
Right.
have to we have to keep it in its place. We have to. All right, looking at the season now, 5 named storms, the average through today's date 4.5 and through this date last year, we had 5 named storms. Now, in terms of named storm days, 14 is where we're at this year. Last year we had 24, but we're right around average. Where we are in terms of averages with ACE, though, Jeremy, is a very different thing.
Yeah, the Ace all of a sudden just hopped above average with Aaron here, and that's really the bulk of that number that you see there for 2025 is coming from Aaron, and it will continue. Aaron's not going away here anytime soon. This number will continue to increase, so we'll be by the time that Aaron finally goes away. We'll see if we get another system to develop, but we'll be about probably 5, 7, maybe plus days running above average.
Yep. So we'll keep tracking all the stats, but in the meantime, Aaron not making landfall in the lower 48, not a problem whatsoever. We're going to continue to monitor not only Aaron but all the other systems out there in the tropics. But I guess for now, just time to open up the questions for a couple of minutes here. See what everybody's talking about, Jeremy.
Yeah, if anyone has questions, I think maybe let me see here. If you have any on
Casper,
yours, you can go
while
ahead.
you're looking, yeah, so Casper points out on mine, the MJO intensity has been extremely variable this year as it approached phase 7. I would agree. This year has been a very odd MJO phasing. It's not been hard either direction. It's kind of been light and variable almost. Have you noticed that?
I probably haven't looked at it as close to it as I should have. I,
Yeah.
I appreciate when you show it here. Obviously, I think it's very important to get that lined up with some of the busier parts of the
Yep.
pattern. But that part that you showed coming up into early September, the Gulf, I still think that area is going to develop something.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. Nick's asking if Aaron's going to hit Connecticut. Aaron is not going to hit the United States. Aaron is not going to hit the United States. Aaron is not going to hit the United States. There's going to be
Right.
peripheral impacts, rough surf, rip currents. I'm going in the helicopter in like an hour to track that, right? But Aaron is not going to hit the United States. Okay, here's a good one. Doug's asking, or I'm sorry, not Doug, Melissa. This is a good one, Jeremy. Melissa's asking, how does the National Hurricane Center come up with invest numbers and why do they always start in the 90s? Yeah, so great question. So if you think about it, every tropical, so if we go into the database, the raw folder structure, and I could do it, I'm not going to do it because I don't have it set up, but when you go into the National Hurricane Center's database, everything is based on numbers. Like Aaron, sure, we refer to it as Aaron, but it is not. It is ALO5. A, B, C, D, E. Yeah, ALO5. So the technical term for Erin is ALO5 2025. AL for Atlantic. O5 means the fifth storm. ALO5. 2025 is the year. So in order to just make sure that they never get any invests interacting with named storms. Not that you're going to have 89 named storms, but what they did is they just put all the invests at the very top. So AL 90 2025 is invest 90. AL 91 2025 is invest. So that's how the database is. So they just run it in the 90s. So as soon as you get to 99, which is what the system is off the coast of Africa, you come back over and do AL 90 again. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
J- Jeremy and I were just talking about this off the air, so I think it's funny that somebody had mentioned it. So I think it's great.
No,
I
I
love
think
that.
it's good because I think it that was a very good explanation.
Thank you, buddy.
We'll
And I
put it
mean, I
that way.
could, if you really like, while you take a question, while you take a question, I'm gonna pull up. This is the actual full. Like, remember when I said I wasn't gonna do it, and because I'm a putz, I'm gonna do it anyway. The actual folder structure of this scrape. Let me just put this there. This,
So something that I don't even know. I mean, we text all the time,
yeah,
but something I want to bring up here, and it has to do with Madden-Julian oscillation,
yeah,
is Roland Madden, who is part of Madden-Julian oscillation, the
yep.
researchers that came up with Madden-Julian oscillation. One of our friends, meteorologist Gary Lezak, just had met with Roland Madden in Colorado
Oh, really?
and, and had lunch with him and kind of picked his brain on some things. So, and it was a fascinating kind of thing.
Oh, that's cool. Okay, all right. That
So
I missed that.
yeah, so I just because we were talking about Madden Julian oscillation, and then I looked it up here because he's 87 years old.
Wow.
And so, yeah, so we talk so much about Madden Julian. We talk about cycles or patterns in the
Right.
atmosphere. So Gary went to sort of one of the experts on that and sat down with him, had a great conversation.
Oh, that's very cool. Very cool. All right, so I found the folder. So this is the way that it looks, okay? The I don't know what B stands for. I guess I have to look. Maybe it's the B deck of data, but ALO1, ALO2, ALO3, ALO4, ALO5, AL98, AL99, and then CP, Central Pacific, EP is Eastern Pacific. So this is the actual database that everything pulls off of when it comes to the tropics. Nerd stuff, you betcha, but you're also sitting here at 10:28 listening to a couple of meteorologists talk. So you're going to get the nerd stuff. That's what you
Right.
got. All right, that's all I got, Jeremy. You got anything else?
So I did get a question here, more specific to my area, asking about traveling to Savannah, and they're going to Tybee Friday through Monday. Impact from flooding. I don't see any type of coastal flooding issues. Then what we'll have to start to watch my area. I don't know about down by you. We start to get kind of wet. It looks like again starting Friday or Saturday, which
Yep,
we've had a lot. We've had a lot of street flooding around here this summer here, especially over about the last month or so. So it does look kind of wet again, but no, not really anticipating any coastal flooding.
that works. That works. Just have to keep track. All right, I got to run. To be continued. From sunny Central Florida, I'm West 2 meteorologist Eric Burris.
And in Savannah, Georgia, I'm WJCL 22 Chief